When it comes to Billie Eilish, don't get me started. I like actually being able to hear singers when they sing. Among Us, I don't understand the fascination. I'm sure it's a perfectly fine game, but there have been countless others that are so much better, in my humble estimation. And anime, honestly, the subtitles just drive me out of my skull, so I can't even possibly begin to enjoy them. However, my students are absolutely nuts about all this stuff. So stick with me and let's talk about how we can use pop culture as a bridge to communication to support and enhance learning in our classrooms. Hi, and welcome to Classroom Confidential. My name is Christopher Youngren, and I'm a middle school English teacher in Tucson, Arizona. Here on this channel, I share tips and strategies that keep me sane and my students engaged. I'm delighted to share my ideas and experiences with you, so welcome. For a long time as a substitute teacher, I used magic tricks as a behavior management tool in the classroom, and I'm going to have a whole series of Magic for the Classroom videos coming up. But one of the tricks that I did involved beginning by asking the students to name one thing that made them brave. And they would come up with answers like Pennywise, Chucky, Michael Myers. These kids, some of them 4, 5, 6 years old, are talking to me about the horror movies that they've seen, that their parents had shown them. And look, don't even get me started on parents showing a 4-year-old Michael Myers. And for years, it bothered me. It still bothers me as a parent who has just barely started letting my 8 and 9-year-old at home watch Marvel movies because we don't want to expose them to violence prematurely. However, what I finally realized is instead of battling against this mentality, look, they're already watching things that many of them perhaps shouldn't. So they already have knowledge of these stories. They're already passionate about some of these stories. So why not use it as a way to build a bridge between me and them rather than something to divide us? I am not for 1 second suggesting that we need Candyman, the picture book, or a 3rd grade curriculum focused on Stephen King. But if a student brings up a point from something that they have seen at home that may be a little bit too adult in your estimation, for example, a student of mine in 6th grade brought up an example from Stand By Me. Classic Stephen King movie, not scary, but pretty grown-up themes in there, and it tied into the discussion on story structure that we're having. So what am I going to do? Say, oh, you shouldn't be watching that, young man. No, I'm going to go, great point. I'm glad you're making that connection, because if I stand back and get all high and mighty and say, my goodness, why are your parents even letting you see such a thing at your age? No, it's negating them. They are volunteering information. They are making connections, and they are clearly paying attention enough to offer their own insights based on the conversation. So it is my job to say, yes, you're absolutely right. That's a great example. Now, do I stay with it if they're bringing up Chucky or Candyman or Freddy Krueger or The Walking Dead? No, but I'm certainly going to be receptive of the point they're making before I move on to maybe more tamer approach to what we're talking about. Being receptive to pop culture examples that they offer of things they're passionate about does 2 things. First of all, it shows that you're familiar with what they're talking about, and you get total street cred for having knowledge of things like The Walking Dead or Grand Theft Auto or Tones and I Dance Monkey. Whatever the case may be, they will respect you just a little bit more when they know that you are in touch with the things that their generation cares about. It also does half the work for you, because if you start off from the common ground of something that they're passionate about and you know all about, and you may be passionate about yourself, the job is half done. You don't have to work to get them interested, because most of them are already interested in Star Wars or Harry Potter or Marvel, whatever the case may be, video games that you may be interested in. You can use these as a touchstone to build that communication between yourselves even stronger, and you don't have to work as hard to get their attention because they already know what you're talking about. Use Phineas and Ferb as an example of exposition when it comes to story structure. There's 104 days in summer vacation and school comes along just to end it. My goodness, what a remarkable job they've done of telling us everything we need to know in the title song alone before the story even starts. Talk about inciting incident via Harry Potter. What is the first significant thing that happens to Harry that sets him on the course of his great adventure? Well, he goes to the zoo, he realizes he can talk to snakes, and he magically makes the glass disappear in the snake case. Luke Skywalker comes home after running errands for his aunt and uncle, which he whines endlessly about. I don't want to do it. And he finds that they've been dead, which sends him off on a great adventure. These are stories that most of them, I was surprised at how many of them didn't know Star Wars, but most of them have some kind of rudimentary working knowledge of Star Wars, so you don't have to bend over backwards to explain it to them because they're already right there with you. In fact, you can even use video games as a way of discussing story structure. I mean, my goodness, now more than ever, designers are focused on story. You have basically 25-hour, 50, 100-hour long movies, and all of the elements of story structure are included. And you have to keep the game consistently interesting and challenging along the way, else the reader is going to lose interest and turn it off. I mean, it's hard enough to do with a 2-hour movie. Can you imagine having to do it with 25 hours, 50 hours, 100 hours? It could make a fascinating discussion on how to keep a story consistently compelling and interesting long enough to take the player through the entire thing to the end. Tap into their music and use it to your advantage. Sure, you can use music that you like as well, maybe from your generation, whenever that may be. I play some 80s music now and then, but they are going to be a lot more invested if you were using examples from songs they already know and like. This can lead you into a discussion on figurative language. How does the songwriter use imagery in this song? Or metaphor, simile, hyperbole, personification? You can also use rap, providing it's school appropriate. I did a whole video based upon Shakespeare versus rap to challenge them as to whether or not they could figure out which one was the hip hop artist and which one was Shakespeare. But this would be an excellent way to focus on a poetry unit, using rap lyrics and discussing poetry through a vehicle that they already know and like. I also like to use read-aloud books in my class that have been turned into movies. This year we began with The Princess Bride. If only The Goonies had been turned into a movie from a book, but alas, there is no Goonies novel. That's just not the world we live in. And so by using books that have been turned into movies, we can compare and contrast the storytelling in the written word versus the filmed one. And boy, I cannot wait to show them the movie of The Princess Bride. So look, at the end of the day, you can get all cranky and bent out of shape because you just don't understand these darn kids and their rock and roll, or whatever it is that they're into that you just don't get. Because believe me, when we were kids, there was probably plenty of stuff that the grown-ups then didn't get either. But instead of taking that route, embrace it. Use it as a language that can build a common bridge between you. Use it to your advantage because, like I say, the groundwork has already been laid on their side. They already speak the language of Star Wars or Marvel or Hogwarts, whatever the case may be. So take it, embrace it, and use it because it is there for the taking. Hey, if you've used pop culture in your own classroom, I'd love to hear about it. Comment down below and let me know what you've used with your own students and how it's gone. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you got value out of this video. If so, be sure to check out some of the other great content right here on Classroom Confidential. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned. Be well, take care of yourselves, and take care of someone else. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.